Gopi Janavalabha Girivaradari Yashodanandana Braja Janaranjana Yashodanandana Braja Janaranjana Yamunatira Vannachari Yamunatira Vannachari Jaya Radha Madhava Kunja Bihari Jaya Radha Madhava Kunja Bihari Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya
Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya.
Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya
Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya.
Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya
Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya.
Srimad Bhagavatam, Canto 2, Chapter 3, Pure Devotional Service, The Change in Heart, Text 1. Shri Shuka Uvacha Evam Etan Nigaditam Prishtavan Yad Bhavan Mama Nirnam Yan Mriya Mriyamananam Manusheshu Manishinam Shri Shuka Uvacha Evam Etan Nigaditam Prishtavan Yad Bhavan Mama Nirnam Yan Mriyamananam Manusheshu Manishinam Shri Shuka Uvacha Evam Etan Nigaditam Prishtavan Yad Bhavan Mama Nirnam Yan Mriyamananam Manusheshu Manishinam Shri Shuka Uvacha Evam Etan Nigaditam Prishtavan Yad Bhavan Mama Nirnam Yan Mriyamananam Manusheshu Manishinam
Shishukavacha
Shri Shuka Uvacha
Evam Etam
Nigaditam
Prishtavan Yad Bhavan Mama
Prishtavan Yad Bhavan Mama
Nam Yan Mriyamananam
Rinam Yan Mriyamananam
Manusheshu Manishinam.
Manusheshu Manishinam
Shri Shuka Uvacha
Shri Shuka Uvacha
Evam Etan
Nigaditam
Prishtavan Yad Bhavan Mama
Prishtavan Yad Bhavan Mama
Nirnam Yan Mriyamananam
Rinam Yan Mriyamananam
Manusheshu Manishinam
Manusheshu Manishinam
Vishukuvacha
Shri Shuka Uvacha
Nigaditam
Evam Metan Nigaditam
Prishtavan Yadbhavan Mama
Prishtavan Yad Bhavan Mama
Nrinam Yadmayamananam
Nam Yad Riyamanana
Sheshu Manishinam.
Manisheshu Manishina.
I know. We haven't got that part.
Shri Shuka Uvacha
Shri Shuka Uvacha
Evam Etan Nigaditam
Evam Metan Nigaditam
Prishtavan Yadbhavan Mama
Prishtavan Yad Bhavan Mama
Nrinam Yadmriyamananam
Nrinam Yan Riyamananam
Manusheshu Manishinam.
Manusheshu Manishinam.
Shuka Uvacha
Shri Shuka Uvacha
Evamita Nigaditam
Evam Metan Nigaditam
Prishtavan Yar Pavan Mama
Prishtavan Yad Bhavan Mama
Nirnam Yan Miyamam Nanam
Nrinam Yan Riyamananam
Manuyasu Manisinam
Manusheshu Manishinam.
Shri Shuka Uvacha
Shri Shuka Uvacha
Evamita Nigaditam
Evam Metan Nigaditam
Prishtavan Yad Bhavan Mama
Prishtavan Yad Bhavan Mama
Nirnam Yan Priyamanana
Nirnam Yan Riyamananam
Manusheshu Manishinam.
Manusheshu Manishinam.
Shri Shuka Uvacha
Shri Shuka Uvacha
Evam Etan Nigaditam
Evam Etan Nigaditam
Prishtavan Yad Bhavan Mama
Prishtavan Yad Bhavan Mama
Nirnam Yan Riyananam
Nirnam Yan Riyamananam
Manusheshu Manishinam.
Manusheshu Manishinam.
Shri Shuka Uvacha
Shri Shuka Uvacha
Evam Etan Nigaditam
Evam Etan Nigaditam
Prishtavan Yadbhavan Mama
Prishtavan Yad Bhavan Mama
Nirnam Yani Miyamananam
Nirnam Yan Riyamananam
Manusheshu Manishinam.
Manusheshu Manishinam. Shri Shuka Uvacha Shri Shukadev Goswami said, Evam, so, Etat, all these, Nigaditam, answered, Prishtavan, as you inquired, yet, what? Bhavan, your good self, Mama, unto me, Nirnam, of the human being, yet, one, Riyananam, on the threshold of death, Manusheshu, amongst the human beings, Manishinam, of the intelligent men. Translation: Sri Shukadev Goswami said, Maharaj Parikshit, as you have inquired from me as to the duty of the intelligent man who is on the threshold of death, so I have answered you. Purport by His Divine Grace, Srila A.C. Bhaktivedanta Swami, Srila Prabhupada. In human society all over the world, there are millions and billions of men and women, and almost all of them are less intelligent because they have very little knowledge of spirit soul. Almost all of them have a wrong conception of life, for they identify themselves with the gross and subtle material bodies, which they are not, in fact. They may be situated in different high and low positions in the estimation of human society, but one should know definitely that unless one inquires about his own self beyond the body and the mind, all his activities in human life are total failures. Therefore, out of thousands and thousands of men, one may inquire about his spirit self and thus consult The revealed scriptures, like Vedanta Sutras, Bhagavad Gita, Srimad Bhagavatam, and Srimad Bhagavatam. But in spite of reading and hearing such scriptures, unless one is in touch with a realized spiritual master, he cannot actually realize the real nature of self, etc. And out of thousands and hundreds of thousands of men, someone may know what Lord Krishna is in fact. In the Chaitanya Charitamrita, Madhya Lila, chapter 20, text 122 to 123, it is said that Lord Krishna, out of his causeless mercy, prepared the Vedic literatures in the incarnation of Vyasadeva for reading by the intelligent class of men in a human society which is almost totally forgetful of the genuine relation with Krishna. Even such an intelligent class of men may be forgetful in their relation with the Lord. The whole Bhakti Yoga process is therefore a revival of the lost relation. This revival is possible in the human form of life, which is obtained only out of the evolutionary cycle of 8,400,000 species of life. The intelligent class of human being must take a serious note of this opportunity. Not all human beings are intelligent, so the importance of human life is not always understood. Therefore, manishinam, meaning thoughtful, is particularly used here. A manishinam person, like Maharaj Parikshit, must therefore take to the lotus feet of Lord Krishna and fully engage himself in devotional service, hearing, chanting, etc., of the holy name and pastimes of the Lord, which are all Hari Kathamrita. This action is especially recommended when one is preparing for death. Om Jnana Timirandasya Jnananjana Shalakaya Chakshurun Militam Yena Tasmai Shri Gurave Namaha Shri Chaitanya Manobhishtam Shtapitam Yena Bhutale Swayam Rupa Kadamayam Dadati Swapadantikam Vandeham Shri Guru Shri Yuta Padakamalam Shri Gurun Vaishnavamscha Shri Rupam Sagrajatam Sahagana Raganatan Vitam Tam Sajivam Sadvaitam Savadutam Prijana Sahitam Krishna Chaitanya Devam Shri Radha Krishna Padan Sahagana Lalita Shri Vishakan Vitamscha He Krishna Kruna Sindho Dinabandho Jigatpate Gopesha Gopika Kanta Radha Kanta Namostute Tapta Kanchana Gaurangi Radhe Vrindavaneshwari Rishabhanu Sute Devi Pranamami Haripriye Panchakalpa Tarubhyascha Kripa Sindhubhya Evacha Patitanam Pavanebhyo Vaishnavebhyo Namo Namaha Jai Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadhar Shivasadi Gaura Bhaktivinoda Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare Hare. Maharaj, if you'd like to speak on this verse, we're all very eager to hear.
The evolutionary cycle, he mentions 8,400,000 species. When one enters into that group of species, different types of bodies, then he automatically moves up, life after life. That's the nature's arrangement. And then when he reaches human form of life, especially civilized human form of life, then he can either continue to move up to the demigod's position, or he can stay in the same as human beings, or he can go down again, down to the lower species, the aquatics, the plant life, the birds, the insects, mammals, etc. So human form of life is a great opportunity because it gives him a chance to finish up this cycle, this birth and death business. Living entities don't like death. Why is it that none of the species like death? Even little insects whose existence seems quite insignificant, but they're very attached to it and they think it's very important. They think their life is the most important thing. because the living entity is not supposed to undergo this death process. He's supposed to live happily ever after in the spiritual world. That's the real business. Atato Brahma Jigyasa. One reaches the human form of life, Vedanta Sutra says, he should inquire into the spirit. By inquiring into the spirit, spiritual nature, he utilizes the extra intellectual ability of the human being. The animals have intellect, but only up to the stage of eating, sleeping, mating, and defending, the lower species. But humans can actually understand metaphysical, transcendental knowledge if they apply themselves. Therefore, the main point of human society is should apply itself. It's the duty of the parents to make sure their children get this education. It's the duty of the administrators, the government, to make sure that the citizens get the opportunity to learn about the spirit. It's the duty of religious leaders, teachers, everyone who has some influence, father, mother, they're supposed to be training the younger ones in the science. But unfortunately, it's very rare to see that. They don't allow, in many places of education, they don't allow to mention anything about spirit and souls or something different than matter. They want to keep it all the discussions about material things. And life, they just say, is a combination of, particularly, shall we say, a developed combination of matter, and then it becomes alive. So this is not a very deep discussion on the situation. And others are just saying they don't know. And so it's our duty now, our first business as a human being, Yanam Santu Sahasrara. Out of many thousands of human beings, one may endeavor for perfection. Manushanam Sahasreshu Kaschid Yatchi Siddhaye. Yatam api Siddhanam Kaschin Mam Veti Tatvataha. Out of many thousands among men, one may endeavor even to know what is perfection. Most of them don't even endeavor. Never crosses their mind that this should be the thing they're looking for. So that means they've already become dulled, so dull that they're not even thinking about the importance of life after death. For example, if you ask someone, what do you think about life after death? They say, I don't think about it much. But if it is possible that you may be existing after death. Did you ever think about that? Yeah, maybe. Well, if you're existing after death, that means maybe also you existed before birth. Possible. So if I'm existing before birth and after death, that's a long time. That could be an eternity. Don't you think it's important to find out what goes on before birth and after death? What kind of life I can live? These are things that a thinking person would naturally think about. But our society is so intoxicated and dulled, as you said, because when one eats meat, takes intoxication, spends his time searching for illicit sex and gambling and watching television all day or this or that. This is so, it dulls the mind so much. They doesn't even think about the really important things. And he thinks that winning a football game is one of the most important things in his life. So we have a long way to go, but our first business is to ourselves, try to understand, find out from bona fide spiritual master how to understand the Vedic knowledge. And then when we understand it, then we should pass on that message to others. That's our sacred duty. Now that we've heard it and we've understood it to a certain extent, it's our duty to make sure that others get the opportunity also. And we should use our position in society. If we're going to vote, we should vote for understanding transcendental knowledge. Just like when we came here about 25 years ago, there was a big campaign in the state of Kansas. They were rejecting Darwin's theory being taught in the schools. It was a big thing. It was unheard of to do that. The whole state, their Board of Education changed they didn't want to teach that anymore. And they were holding a news conference, and the media came from all over, AP, International, all the news wire services, newspapers, television. It was a big thing. And we also came there, and we gave support to Kansas Board of Education. We read from Sariputta and Tritakarma Prabhu's book, Forbidden Archaeology, about how this theory is missing so many things, and it's been hasn't been handled properly, and there's no understanding of. So they appreciated that very much, and ultimately they had their conference, and we also spoke. Many of the news channels were asking us for interviews too about the subject. So it was a good opportunity for preaching. But the people in general were thinking that if we weren't teaching Darwin's theory, we were mistreating our children. We were ruining our children, their future life. How would they be able to live without having that knowledge, they thought. So, but actually, we should reject this type of so-called education, not based on reality. Where is there an example of a living entity changing and becoming another species? We have no example of that. But we do have example that the species go on. There's all these different types of, one type of seed, it produces, it's not chaotic, it's not accidental. One particular type of seed produces same kind of living entity, and they produce the same type of seeds. It's been going on since time immemorial. So the Vedic scriptures give information that is so important for everyone to know. And we should try our best to just get the knowledge out get this literature distributed and understood and taught, and then society will be able to use its life, human opportunity wonderfully and become self-realized, and then eligible to go back to home, back to Godhead after giving up this body.
Thank you, Maharaj. So in this Krishna consciousness movement, we've received the best thing, because we're hearing here how Maharaj Parikshit, he has inquired from Shukadev Goswami of what is the duty of one who's on the threshold of death. And Shukadev Goswami is saying that he's answered him. So that applies to all of us, because we don't know if we're going to die like Maharaj Parikshit in 7 days or 7 minutes or many years. But so everyone who's in this material world, anything that's born also has death. From the moment we were born, each birthday is one less year that we get to live. So we're all on this threshold of death, and Shukadev Goswami is giving what is our most important duty. So by coming to this Krishna consciousness movement and associating with self-realized persons and hearing from a bona fide spiritual master, we're getting the most important thing. So then it's our duty to also share it. It's called miserly if somebody gets a lot of wealth or something nice and then they just hoard it for themselves, because then there's no use. But it's our duty to also share this with others. Srila Prabhupada explained in one letter, he said the temples are not just a place for eating and sleeping, but they're bases from which we send out our troops to fight with Maya. So like this, we can take all of these amazing literatures that we have that are giving the most valuable thing in life. It's like a touchstone, or it's also been compared to like a bomb, because a bomb goes off and causes so much destruction. And like that, these books like the Srimad Bhagavatam and the Bhagavad Gita, when one receives it, it might not go off right at that time. But as soon as someone begins to read it, one sentence or even one word, whether it's the person who got the book or someone who ends up receiving it miles away somehow, as soon as they begin to read it, it's like a bomb to their material entanglement, destroys all their entanglements to this world, their misconceptions and everything. Because the Srimad Bhagavatam it's like the sun in this age of Kali. So even though there's so much darkness in the form of false spiritual paths, misconceptions, material miseries, all of these different forms of ignorance, the Srimad Bhagavatam is just like the sun. So it's giving light in this age of Kali and helping us understand our real position and what is our foremost duty to surrender unto the Supreme Personality of Godhead, Krishna. So devotees take great risks for Krishna, and in this way Krishna also reciprocates, because he promises, he actually has Arjuna promise in the Bhagavad Gita that he will always protect his devotees. So if Krishna promises something, that's very good, but also there's a chance that he could break it for the sake of his devotee. Just like there's examples of where, because Krishna, the devotee is totally sold out to Krishna, and in the same way, Krishna becomes sold out to that surrendered devotee as well. So there have been instances where he breaks a promise for the sake of his devotee. So he has his devotee Arjuna declare it actually, that his devotees will never perish. So now it's even a stronger promise. It's absolute. So with faith in these words that Krishna's devotee will never perish, devotees take great risks for the spreading of Krishna consciousness. And in this way, they get closer to the Lord. As they surrender unto me, and worship me with love, I reveal the path by which they can come to me. Krishna says in the Bhagavad Gita, Tesham satata yuktanam bhajatam pratipurvakam tadami buddhi yogam tam yenamam upayanti te. So the devotees can express their love for Krishna in this best way by bringing other people to Krishna. These are some of the things that Prabhupada was interested in when he would be looking at the different temples and what they're doing. He was interested if they were publishing books and if they were making devotees. So we're very fortunate to be here at Rupanuga Vedic College, where both of these activities are going on, and we can try our best to help with them in some form, because they're very auspicious activities. They're very pleasing to Srila Prabhupada and to Krishna. So Maharaj Parikshit inquired from Shukadev Goswami, and this is the duty of one who wants to achieve the perfection of life. So in the Bhagavad Gita, there's a verse that's explaining, what is it? Pariprashnena sevaya pranipat. The disciple, he falls down flat at the lotus feet of the spiritual master. He's surrenders to the spiritual master and inquires from him submissively and renders service. And in this way, the self-realized soul can impart knowledge unto him. So I was listening to a morning walk with Srila Prabhupada, and there's one person, I don't know who it is, but he's very, he acts very familiar with Srila Prabhupada, very like friendly, and he's very energetic. And so they're always kind of like laughing and talking, like chatting back and forth. But this person, he brings up some points about how everything is all one and these different Mayavadi ideas. And Prabhupada is explaining to him that actually we understand everything is achintya beta beta tattva, simultaneously one and different. Just like everything that we cannot see and understand is Krishna's energy, but Krishna himself is still different from that energy. He still has his own personal form, playing the flute and enjoying his many pastimes in the spiritual world. And simultaneously, he's able to expand his energy to make everything else. So Prabhupada is explaining this to him, but he's still saying, no, everything's one. So it's all Krishna and we're all everything and this and that. And Prabhupada explains to him that you actually can't understand this because you're not submitting yourself. And he says, no, I am submitting myself. Prabhupada says, again, he says, no, you're not submissive. And he says, yes, I'm very submissive. And so he's arguing about how submissive he is. But so Prabhupada explained that verse, that pranipat, first the disciple or one who wants to understand the truth, he has to be submissive to the self-realized soul. Falls down flat in front of them like a stick. It's called a dandavat. So if we are thinking that we know better, then we can't actually learn. Or if I think I'm if I'm proud of some sort of so-called qualification, then what room will there be for me to learn anything? But if we are actually humble and submissive, then we can hear from a bona fide spiritual master, self-realized souls, people who know the absolute truth. And in this way, we can make advancement. So this Krishna consciousness movement is giving that opportunity to everyone. And it behooves us to apply ourselves to this process of submissively hearing from self-realized souls in the Bhagavad Gita and the Srimad Bhagavatam, associating with devotees, chanting about Krishna or his holy name, and then after applying ourselves, to also share it with others. As Maharaj was saying, the devotees and many devotees in the very beginning of this movement, when Srila Prabhupada came over to America, were so eager to get the merciful glance of Srila Prabhupada, to get his attention and serve him in some way, So they would take very big risks, sometimes without even thinking of how will this work out? What if it doesn't work out? One group of devotees that included Shama Sundar and Malati and Yamuna, Devidasi, and Makunda. They went over to London to meet the Beatles because they were thinking, okay, who are the most influential people in the world today? And they thought, okay, definitely the Beatles. Everyone in the world knows them, faints when they see them. Everyone freaks out about them. So they thought if we can get them to chant Hare Krishna and in this way become interested and share it with others, then how great that will be and how much that will please Srila Prabhupada. So without any backup plans or anything, they just they had flown over to London and they tried to meet the Beatles at their Apple Records place. But when they first went, they had a meeting with someone, and later he sent them a letter that actually we don't want to like work with you or cooperate with you. But they thought, okay, at least our foot is in the door. We've started. So then they kept going, and they would go often. And every time that they would go to this Apple Records, they would give some little gift for the Beatles and anybody working there, like a cake or other little gifts or a little walking apple. There's a little like wind up toy that said Hare Krishna on the side. And as they kept up with this, eventually Krishna's mercy was there, and George Harrison from the Beatles came and met. He saw Shama Sundar in this lobby of the Apple Records and began speaking with him. He said, "Where have you been?" He said, "I've been looking for you guys." And he was actually extremely interested in Krishna consciousness. And then he took it up very seriously. And so I've just been hearing about this recently, and the devotees were trying very hard and taking many risks for the spreading of Krishna consciousness. And Krishna kept reciprocating with them and getting all the obstacles out of the way, even in times that seemed dire. And Srila Prabhupada kept being more and more pleased and was sending letters to them about how nicely it was the way that they were trying to spread Krishna consciousness in London and encouraging them to make a temple, and then telling them how pleased he was that George Harrison and the Beatles were taking it up. So there's so many ways to spread Krishna consciousness. And we can try our best to do that. So are there any questions or comments? Yes, Magadari Prabhu.
One question that I had, you spoke about humility, and sometimes I feel like materially engrossed persons, they don't appreciate humility. But the devotee, he goes to them and he says, I'm fallen, I'm trying to figure my life out. I have doubts, but I'm taking this process up, and, I'm getting some benefit. I'll try to stick it out and see where it goes. And they say, my life is amazing. I'm doing this awesome thing. I'm doing that awesome thing. And so it almost is like, to the materialist, the proud one is more attractive. His preaching is more attractive.
I remember one time Maharaj was explaining to me, if I don't quote the words exactly right, but along the lines of that pride won't distribute a book or like help our preaching. But if we're humble, that helps. And then there's also the point that Srila Prabhupada made where, like they're not going to, sorry, back on that point, I'm just trying to explain more. Like they won't take the book if we're just if I come up and I'm the most proud guy, that's not going to make them take the book. But if we're humbly trying to preach to them, then that's helpful. But Prabhupada also makes that point that one should be like a lion on the chase and a lamb in like at the temple. So around the devotees we're like a lamb. You never hear of any lambs causing like a great big difficulty, like a lamb went on a rampage at the zoo and ate someone, or no, there's nothing like that happens. So around the devotees and at the temple, we're like the lamb. You never hear of a lamb causing any problems. And then on the chase, we're like a lion. And that doesn't mean that, or out on Sankirtan, we're like a lion. And which doesn't mean that we go around and bite people's heads off, but that like the lion, when they're on the chase, they're focused, they're one-pointed, focused, and aggressive. So like that, we can aggressively try to convince somebody of the importance of this human form of life and of knowing who they are, who is God, taking this book or hearing some of the philosophy. We can be, with that, we can be forceful and focused and aggressive, like the lion. And then like the lamb around the devotees. Does that make sense? Or maybe there's some points that didn't make, that were kind of unclear in that. Okay. Thank you all for hearing this class. Srimad Bhagavatam ki jai. Srila Prabhupada ki